Alright, so this week's journal entry, I just did a little bit of research on what type of dwarfism I wanted to focus on, and I decided to do Achondroplasia, which is the most common type of dwarfism. Um, and this is the kind of dwarfism where the cartilage doesn't turn into bone. So the cartilage doesn't form into a bone, and that's what causes the person to be of short stature. So it's most common in the longer bones, so like legs and arms. And that's why with so many people with short stature, you see them have like an average torso and head, and then their arms and legs are a lot smaller. So it's because the cartilage isn't turning into bone. Um, so it's basically a genetic disorder that affects bone growth in its most simplest form. And it's the most common type of dwarfism. And I chose to do this because I think that um, if you are focusing on like such a small portion, then it like isn't as educational. Like I feel um, like we have an idea of what dwarfism is, and I think it's more important. I mean, every kind is important, but showing the true facts about one of them that affects a certain population, like a larger population, is more important than focusing on the fact, not more important, but can be more beneficial than focusing on something that only affects like 3% of all little people. So that's why I chose to do Achondroplasia. I'm gonna get that eventually. Um, so this doesn't cause any sort of issues with the brain, which some dwarfism does have an effect on intelligence or mental development, but this kind does not. The biggest issues happen, or complications happen, with the spinal cord or the brain, and those can be resolved in surgery. Um, and the gene is inherited by a dominant trait. So, someone is a carrier for the trait, and it is a dominant trait. But 80%, I found this very interesting, 80% of the people that have this kind of dwarfism, it is caused by a mutation in the FGFR3 gene. So that is how two people of average height can have a child with achondroplasia. I'm getting there. Um, so anyway, 80% of the people, it's not a result of a gene that anyone's carrying. It's resulted in a mutation. Um, but this kind of dwarfism can be diagnosed before birth. A lot of times you can see it through the ultrasound or through x-rays, and that's how people normally are able to see it. It's very easy with the proportion of the child to be able to see it in an ultrasound. Also, if two people that have achondroplasia or any kind of dwarfism are reproducing, it is most beneficial to do a prenatal test um, to see if the child will be affected, because there are some medical steps that can be taken to help that child as it is growing. But it is easy to find through an ultrasound. The average height of a male is 4 feet 4 inches, and the average height of a female is 4 feet 1 inch. Um, and it is found in 1 out of 25,000 births in all of the world. So, I mean, it's not as common as some things, but it's also definitely more common than a lot of the diseases that we're seeing. Um, it is affecting girls and boys equally. So it's right around like 49% that of each gender. Um, and then if two people with achondroplasia are reproducing, there's a 50% chance that they are going to pass it down to their child. So not terrible odds. And then 25% chance that it's going to be average height. And then there is a 25% chance that there's going to be a developmental issue within the torso and the lungs that's going to cause the child to not be able to breathe, and it will die. So that is a huge risk that comes along with two people of short stature reproducing. So, a very common show, Little People, Big World, they have two different kinds of dwarfism, but they have reproduced, and they have 4 children. The oldest two are twins, and one of them is average height, and one of them is a little person. And then their other 2 children are the average height. So I believe that Amy has achondroplasia, and then I can't remember his name. The husband has a more severe kind of dwarfism. But they are kind of in that, I mean, they're lucky that they didn't get one of their children in the 25%, but they have 3 children of average height, and then one of them is little like them. So, yeah. But I just wanted to kind of hone in on one particular kind of dwarfism this week. So that's why I chose achondroplasia and did a little bit of research on that. But the way that I came up that I wanted to do achondroplasia is I found this website, and it is a photographer. It's called Gary Parker Photography, and he does different series, animals, natural wonders, different advertising for companies, and then he did what he calls the Dwarfism Project, and I really, really enjoyed the piece that he did. So he took a bunch of different people. He, like, in the portfolio, he thanks his friend Patty Maloney. She was an actress, and she had a rare kind of dwarfism, and that's kind of what inspired his portfolio that he did in 2009. And he just photographed a bunch of different kinds of dwarfism and them doing different things. So, like, it explains them, like, in there it has the person that is recorded to be the tallest person with dwarfism, and that's 5 foot. And they take pictures, like, with their siblings, like one of them is a little person and one of them is of average height. And so he did a bunch of different photographs of all those different people, and the one that I came across the most was achondroplasia, which is part of why I did it. But I just really enjoyed the way that he kind of made each person out, like, to show kind of what they were good at, even though they are a lot different than people of average height. It showed, like, some of the things that they're really good at. It showed on record, the smallest bodybuilder in the world, and he is only 23 pounds, and he's 20 years old. So that was really cool, and different, like, couples that had children, or people that were of average height that had 2 children that did have dwarfism. So it was just kind of those, like, rare cases or something interesting that happened, and I thought that was a really great tribute to his friend. So anyway, looking forward to next week, well, later this week, and getting caught up on all the videos and trying to add a little bit more depth to what is going on with the voice, and continuing to see where my person ends up.